professional level. This is why. Hey guys, we're back from ABCA and want to give you guys kind of the overview of everything that we heard, obviously some of the proposals that went on in the meetings, and then ultimately what coaches are saying, talking about recruiting, everything like that. So first off, we're going to go into the overview. You guys have maybe seen my last video from the ABCA, but want to go over that real quickly again so that people don't miss it. And because I'm seeing a lot of, again, bad information out on social media, basically saying this is a done deal. The NCAA's made a ruling. The 38-man roster is for everybody. That's not the case. So we're going to get into that right now. Again, guys, if you're not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. Something like 85% of you guys are returning but are not subscribed. So please hit that subscribe button. Really helped us. Again, if you like the video, like it. Daily college baseball content, especially as we get going right here up to the season. So back to the 38-man roster. Now, we talked about this, right? The 38-man fall roster. Now, is this finalized? What stage is this at? Well, I mean, this has to be taken. Again, I'm seeing other groups in college advising basically making massive threads that like 100,000 people at the time last night had seen, and it was all completely not true. It basically said, the NCAA's made a ruling, the 38-man fall roster is totally official now, and it actually even said that, they do have to cut the 38-man down to the 35-man, when all of us know it's 34, right? So when you guys see information out there on social media, like DM me, message me, comment on one of our videos, say, hey Kyle, have you seen this? Or let me know what you think. Again, because I think there's a lot of people out there that weren't at the ABCA, don't have a lot of good connections in college baseball, and they see, an article about 38-man roster. They don't read the whole thing because they're too lazy, and then they ultimately make a thread that goes pretty well seen, and a lot of people get led astray because that person was not willing to do the due diligence to make sure everything they were saying was correct. So 38-man roster, this is not official. This is a proposal. It is a proposal that was made by the coaches, Division I coaches at the ABCA in a long meeting. There was a lot of people against it. More people obviously were for it, and that was kind of where they ended up kind of coming to an agreement, and a consolidation was, all right, 38 guys in the fall. Well, the good thing is this, at least for recruiting, you can't bring in 60 guys in the fall. Limited number in fall. So you can't over-recruit. You got to be really specific about the guys you bring in, and even the 4 extra guys that, you're going to have 4 guys that you're thinking, all right, they're not on scholarship or whatever, but, there's going to be those guys, they're going to be competitive as well. And to recruit them, you're going to have to basically tell them, hey, you have a legitimate shot of making the lineup. You come in and you ball out and you put up good numbers and you're impressive. You have that shot. So there's not going to be any over recruiting. So a lot of kids aren't going to be showing up to campus and then getting cut. But there definitely are going to be some, because you have to go from 38 to 4. So when we go from 38 to 4, or 34, excuse me, this is where a large minority of the coaches disagreed with the 38-man roster, because what they saw, or what they envisioned would happen, is that this 38-man is going to go to 34 in December. And these 4 guys at every school across the country, a number of them are going to sue. And what ultimately will happen is it will create a winter portal window where you don't lose eligibility at Division I if you transfer. So transfer without losing D1 eligibility. So what coaches were saying was like, listen, and this is like, you're very experienced coaches that have been around a long time and have seen how the portal stuff went. You guys have heard me talk about it. with the portal, guys sued, enough of them sued, and then the NCAA was like, okay. NIL, guys sued, enough of them sued, and NCAA was like, okay. We're seeing that with the JUCO stuff. Again, still a lot of bad information out there about the JUCO stuff. But I'll tell you guys later in the video what I heard from a bunch of coaches, what they think is going to happen. So transfer without losing D1 eligibility, what this would mean is that now coaches have to worry about a winter transfer window, because what will be the effects that the NCAA won't see? What will happen is you're assuming that the 4 guys, so these 4 guys that are cut right here, you're assuming that they're going to be the ones transferring. But if all of a sudden, if this winter portal window becomes such that you don't lose Division I eligibility, you're going to be losing way more than 4. Like I talked to you guys in the past, I mean, you're going to see guys have a really good freshman fall, or a team that really liked them and lost out. They may say, hey, they may have their guys whispering in their ear on social media or whatever, saying, hey, you come to here, you're going to get $200,000. That's the reality that will happen. And coaches are like, we already deal with the portal enough. We already deal with getting poached, all this stuff. And again, that December, that post-Thanksgiving December month is like really the only time coaches kind of have off. Like they're not out recruiting. They're not out at, at practice or during the season. They're still on the phone a little bit, but that's their one time that they really get to be around their family. That would go out the window in this case. So a lot of people disagreed with the 38-man roster in the fall because they thought 4 extra guys, I mean, okay, great. It may give us a little bit extra depth to weather, a big injury storm, but it's the cost is, and this is well thought out, is that all of a sudden we're going to get this winter transfer portal window where D1 eligibility is not lost anymore, and then all havoc ensues. So that's first on that. Obviously, we covered, guys, the fall games from 2 to 4 fall, you could call it off-campus games or outside competition. So these aren't really they're not inter squads. You're having teams from close by, another Power 4 team that's close, or a mid-major that's in state, come and scrimmage. It's obviously not an official game, but you're not facing your guys for the 100th time in the fall. And like I said in my video at the ABCA, the one thing this does is there are some guys that I use the term Fall Americans that really dominate in the fall, and you think, and even as a player, you think, oh, he's figured it out this year, like he's going to be a stud. And then the spring comes and they're not playing the same guys every week. And there's a little bit more pressure because the stats count and all that. You combine all that stuff and all of a sudden they just end up being the same guy they were. So this is a way to what this does is it allows you to identify Fall Americans. And I know this is kind of a funny term, but you get it, it's like All-American, it's Fall American. So it's the guys who, sometimes it's every fall, sometimes one guy just all of a sudden looks really good. It's those guys that in the fall are just balling out, and the spring comes and they're kind of just a normal dude again, or they're back to the same guy they were. But the more outside competition you get to face, the easier it is to identify those guys. Because again, even though it's not a real game, there is more pressure. It is treated as a real game, like you're trying to win. So it does kind of create that game-like atmosphere, and it just allows you to evaluate your team at a little bit higher level. So I think that's great. Obviously, we talked about the 35 days practice before the first game. And just another thing that gives the coaches, gives the teams a longer window to prepare and ramp up for the season. It really doesn't make a lot of sense for baseball that we go from, basically most of November and then all of December and then in a first week into January before you get back on campus. And the season starts in about a month and a week, give or take. And pitchers aren't allowed to throw in games until, middle of January, basically. And then also you basically have like a couple weeks to ramp up guys' arms and innings and everything like that. And I do think that is part of why you see a lot of first 3 or 4 weeks of a season a lot of arm injuries because you're kind of don't have enough time. I mean, think about spring training in the major leagues. You're getting there in early February, and you basically have a month and a half to ramp up. Well, in baseball, in college, you don't even have a month. You have like 3 weeks. So this is just in order to, again, prepare your team, get them in baseball shape, especially for these guys, in the winter, in the Northeast, in the Midwest, and the northern states that like they're not even outside yet. They're not even outside at all until after the season starts. So give them as much time as possible. Like the Southeast states, right? They don't necessarily need it as much. Again, everyone needs it to ramp up their arms and everything. But for the northern states in particular, just makes it a little bit easier for them to just kind of get in as close to as baseball shape as possible. Like I said, again, a lot of those guys can't even get on the field when the season starts. As far as where they're at, so they got to go down south to play. And then, so what are the coaches saying about this upcoming season and what they think is going to happen and everything like that? So about the JUCO stuff, I talked to JUCO coaches, I talked to D2 coaches, I talked to Division I, Power 4, all across the board, and everyone told me the same thing. And it's kind of what I've been telling you guys. If this ends up going the way that it looks like it's going, the JUCO eligibility thing will eventually become a rule, probably soon, probably even after the season, this spring season. Now, what they said is this, the question is it going to be your whole career of JUCO or just 1 year, right? So if you play 2 years at a junior college, do you get 2 years of eligibility back or just 1? That's the question. Again, because if you look at how all this, the NIL, the portal, everything, how it started, it's all started with these players taking stuff to court, and ultimately the NCAA is and the NCAA is already conceding ground on this, saying things like, well, we want eligibility to go from 4 years of playing in 5 to 5 and 5. So you could play for 5 years at the NCAA level. So ultimately that is going to come out, and that's basically what every coach told me. A lot of coaches are saying, like, listen, in this offensive climate, a lot of us are still trying to figure out, like, what is the recipe for wins every year? Because, like what Carl Nonamaker was telling me, was like, listen, like, we had a really good team 2 years ago, and then last year we felt like we had a good team, and we just could not win. And feels really good. He's like, I'm not going to count my chickens before they hatch. We like our team. But he's like, we're still trying to figure out, like, what is the exact recipe for success? Because in those ever since these last 3 years with the portal and everything like that, it's brought so much change to the game. And for example, it's like, all right, well, how many veteran portal guys do you want on your team versus how many high schoolers? How many veteran, is it worth it to go more pitchers out of the portal or hitters out of the portal or all guys out of the portal? Like, what's the percentage? And he said basically, like, that's what all of us are trying to figure out, is what is the recipe to have a winning team in the SEC or the ACC every single year. And what you're seeing, guys, and what I heard in particular from pretty much every coach I talked to was more and more and more, even the teams that at first said, our bread and butter is still going to be high school, like we're going to develop high school players. Well, what they found out is that that's just not a recipe for winning. You're going to bring in high school talent. It's got to be elite. It's got to be high-level pitching, and the bats have to be elite, at least in the eyes of the evaluator. So remember, guys, if your goal is to play Division I baseball, we need to be very serious about what the best path is for you. Because if you're not an elite hitter and you go to a Power 4 by some chance, the reality is that you're probably getting cut, or at least basically told at the end of the spring season, like, you're not going to play next year, so you probably should hit the portal. And that's not what we want for any of you. So, guys, again, I hope this helps. Let me know what you think in the comments. I wanted to provide a little bit more context just from the video at ABCA, because obviously I'm trying to film that quickly and get back down there. So I wanted to make sure you guys had an in-depth look at all the stuff that was talked about at ABCA. And again, I wanted to get ahead of some of the people out there that are basically talking about this like it's done deal 100%. Again, this has to be verified by the conferences as well. It's like the NCAA isn't just like approving it. The SEC's got to approve it. The ACC, the Big 10, the Big 12, etc. So this can't just be made a ruling all of a sudden. It's a proposal that has to be agreed. The coaches don't have like ultimate power. The coaches make a proposal, and it has to be taken to the ACC, the SEC, etc. And then if they agree to it without making any amendments, then it's talking with the NCAA in the House settlement with the fine print and coming to an agreement. So again, unless that happened in like a day, don't listen to the people out there telling you this is like a done deal. It's like the same thing with the JUCO stuff, right? Everyone was saying, done deal, people have extra eligibility at JUCO now, it's crazy. And I'm out there saying, not yet, like don't do that, not yet, don't make a decision yet. So same thing. Let me know what you guys think. Again, if you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button. We're going to back from ABCA. We're going to have our daily streams coming out, daily videos, and college baseball season's almost here, guys. All right, appreciate you guys. Let me know what you think.